I'm sure you can have that attitude if you, that could be your motivation for your painting. If you think about painting as being something that you're doing for the first time, doing the painting for the first time, and no one is telling you how it has to be. Yes, there's one person saying it has to be, and that's old Mother Nature. Everything we do, we want to make our pictures look natural. So if we want to make our pictures look natural, we have to know what nature is about. And nature has certain patterns. And the one that I want to speak about today in painting white is that nature is made of three primary colors: yellow, red, and blue. And I have to use red, yellow, and blue to paint this because nature's using it. So right next to this, I'm going to take a little bit of black and a little bit of alizarin, which is a violet. Makes a violet. Violet, you know, I'm sure we all know that violet is made from blue and red. And I'm going to try that out. I'd like it a little darker, more black in it. And by putting in this color right around here and taking a clean brush and doing another thing that is nature's trickery, opposite, in a stroke opposite from the way I painted it, I blend it in. Because nature, our nature, is a balance of opposites. And rhythm of application, or the stroking you do on your painting, is always a matter of putting it on one way and affecting it another. To make it look natural, to use one of nature's formulas. Every plane, direction that is not in line with the light is being made darker and violetish. Sometimes you need a big brush to blend it in. Well, before I get on to this, why don't I go a little bit further in developing that. See, now I can put some more white into this mixture and make it a little bit more colorful with more yellow to record the optimum of the light hitting it. Not exactly the optimum. The optimum is where the light hits it, which is right here. I know you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 highlights all in here. I do too. I only put one because I make believe I only see one source of light. But I do see light. Well, this has to be lighter. This has to be lighter. This has to be lighter. And some of those places, too, are so much in line with the light that they'll catch a highlight. Helps the texture. Oops, too light. That's something that happens a lot of times. We see these wonderful reflections in the shadow and make them too light. I just put it in, but kept it a little darker. This. We're always charmed by the, sometimes a finger does a better job. I step to the side so that you can see what I'm doing. If this gets a little lopsided, realize that it's a lesson rather than a painting. See, I could put this in. I'm going to put that light I see in there. See it? I've pointed out. See this? That reflection. That's coming from the light hitting the drape and bouncing back. Reflection. There it is. You want to know what value it really is? I'm going to put it here. I'll do it again, here. And I put it here. That's called mud. People say, you never get muddy color. I says, well, you know why I don't get muddy color? Because the underpainting has told me what's going to be light and what's going to be dark. In the light area, I make it light and keep going lighter. And so that keeps it clean. In the dark area, I make sure I don't use the light area color. So we should always respect and realize that every picture, no matter how many years you've been painting, how many prizes you've won, you never can get away from the basics. People who are pianists learn the scales. When they get to Carnegie Hall, they can't say, well, I'm just going to forget about the scales. I learned that when I was a beginner. I don't need it now. Of course the person needs it. And so that's why these sessions, these lessons that I'd like very much to have you appreciate are lessons on the basics. Now that I've added the lighter tone where I see the light slam that drape with light, I realized I didn't impose enough color on the underpainting when I glazed it. And so I can take white and black and raw sienna and make it, this is, see, I can see my palette through this paint. That means it's what it's called a scumble. And I think it's got its name from the sound that it makes. Hear it? Hear it? Well, I think that I'm going to let my assistants finish that scumbling. They need a lesson in making a scumble work. So I think I'll let them have a hand at it. Well, I see my little helpers did a good job. And they listened to what I teach them. They added the lights where the lights strike. I told them just to fix this scumble, which they needed to do to get this, pulled together. And then they went and had a good time and added more light. where the light is striking the hardest. They even fiddled around with this. They even got that lighter. Put that on. Oh, they're little devils. One thing they didn't do, leaving the tough work for me, is this little bit of detail that shows up because the light can hit this bump, and then this swirls around a little bit. These little things, they're already planned for, but not in such terrible detail. And they might be accentuated with just a little bit of dark. Don't pick around on too much detail. Now, I think that we have talked about the color white before, a long time ago. But it reminds me of something that happened to me. I studied with Roscoe, as many of you know. Roscoe was my teacher when I was my very late teens, and he gave a lecture, and it was a brilliant lecture. Then, when I was about 26 or 27, I had my own art school, and I invited him to come out and give a lecture, which he did. And I thought, didn't that man get smart in those years? He gave the same lecture, but I listened to it differently. And so we always can read a book about the basics, because we gather some information at the stage we're at. And then 6 months later, we're not the same person. We have experience, we're more alert, we're more aware, and then we read it and say, I understand, I get it now. Now that I have the lights and the general overall darks, I'm going to add, remember I said I don't get mud because I add light to light? I'm going to add dark to dark because here I see a darker shadow. Which gives me more. And very important, the very dark we see back under in here. The cast shadow dark. And I like to keep the darker darks up near the focal area, not just away from them. Well, this picture took about 54 minutes. And this picture took me 2 days. You can see the time is a very, very important element in the development of a picture. So next week, I'm going to tell you about how to paint orange, or I may teach you how to make